Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'm going to interject my financial opinions as we go through this. And if you need any help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That is where I dive deeper into individual sectors and companies that we cover here that provide a lot more leverage to the price moves than these ETFs would. I'm just using the ETFs as an overall kind of gauge of what the market is doing. And that can give you further evidence of maybe what to look at, what sector to look at, and dive into the individual companies. We still have a coupon code going on, LEAP, LEAP, if you're interested, and the pricing's in the description link below. All right, so let's dive in here. Let's see what's going on. We've got the DXY that we're starting with, and we've got a little bit lower DXY that also is paired with slightly lower yields. But overall, guys, we've broken the downtrend to the upside. So I am still biased an upside move, even if we get a pullback or consolidation. And the DXY, I mean, if I were to look at this, guys, let me just overlay crude oil on this. To me, it looks like more or less a crude oil chart. And I know crude oil, it's so volatile compared, but this is more or less crude oil driving rates and the DXY. The 2-year yield also pulled back a little bit today. So we could still be consolidating here. We got our little pullback, and if we are going to go lower, we should see this accelerate to the downside. If it's still going to consolidate, you'll see it turn here tomorrow and stay within the pattern there. The 10-year also a little bit lower. It's not a huge selling pressure day to day. We're up against support. I think this looks more like a consolidation. To be honest, we've got buying pressure with this big wick at the bottom here, that candlestick. So I still think that there's the possibility that we're going to go higher with rates, basically across the board of different time frames. And then the 30-year yield's up a little bit, and this to me looks like a consolidation where we could break to the upside with rates. And the driver of all this is most likely crude oil, and that's what I would be looking at is crude oil. TYX TNX ratio, it is coming on up today. That is generally good for gold and precious metals, generally speaking. But we are still highly inverted. And we've stayed inverted for a pretty long period of time. We inverted probably April 2022, pretty inverted there. And we've been inverted for multiple years now. And when this comes back up, that's generally when gold and silver do very well. Bond price is moving flat. We still have downside pressure. And again, this is just an inverted yield. So this is just a consolidation perhaps. And then we could go lower. And that's what I mean by bond prices lower and yields going higher. It's just a mirror image. And then we've got the 2 and 10s, slight on inversion, but I don't consider this to be anything crazy. And it could be a flag pattern that we break to the upside and invert even further. But I'm going to hold my opinions on that until we start to see more evidence of it. So gold down a little bit today. It is a reversal candlestick. Kind of weird. I'm just going to say this, kind of weird that we had 2 very large selling pressure days in gold, and yields weren't really the driver of it, which is kind of weird. And most of the selling occurred pre-market to drive these lower in the pre-market phase. And I've heard some people talk about they don't want gold to go up uncontrolled. They want it to kind of go up in a managed way. And maybe this is part of that managed way for this candlestick there and these candlesticks here. And how there was not a clear driver in the market driving this lower, like rates going up and a yield curve inversion that kind of just going sideways. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But overall, the momentum's still to the upside. We got a pretty good potential reversal candlestick today with a wick at the bottom, and we'll see how this trades over the next few days. Silver actually ended up, again, these are hammer candlesticks, but we've got lots of selling pressure the day before. And if this is a legit selling pressure day, what you'll see is follow through. If it is a potential non-legit move, you're going to get a move that looks like this, where they reverse it and it doesn't have any follow through. It just kind of sits there, doesn't do anything. So we'll see what the next few trading days are. If we start to see this come on up, we know that they're battling. The Federal Reserve and potential banks that are associated with it, are probably battling buyers for this. Like they want it, they don't want this to go up uncontrolled. They don't want to cause a panic in the markets. So I don't think they're just going to let this thing unwind and rip something like this, where it goes and could potentially trigger something where we go in the multi $100, $200, $300 range. They're probably going to try to slow it down as it goes. Platinum down a little bit today. I think platinum looks fantastic. Another hammer candlestick like the other ones. This is a pretty cheap price down here too. We're right at support. And then palladium up a little bit. We're at support. We got nice support underneath us. Nice little candlestick today. Another hammer candlestick. XEU to gold. Gold and silver mining companies outperforming gold itself. Moving on up. Looks like there's some people positioning in the gold and silver mining companies. I think this looks fantastic, guys. Fantastic for a outsized return in gold and silver mining companies. And I know everybody hates these, but you know what? That's where I go. I go where everybody hates. The CRB index down just a teeny bit today, which I think it's all right, guys. We're doing all right, and I do think we're going to head on up. I do think that we have the momentum behind us, and this is just a continuation consolidation pattern. CRB to S&P 500, we pulled back a little bit against the S&P 500. The commodities did. So the S&P was up today, and commodities were basically down slightly. But I do think this is going to rip to the upside. Now, here's the thing, guys. Nobody in power wants this to happen. Because if the commodity complex rips, that means that we're going to get a lot of inflation. And interest rates are going to go up, and it's going to cause even more of a headache in the system. And money's going to rotate where they don't want it to rotate. So I think it's going to happen no matter what, but the powers that be do not want that to occur because it's going to be highly inflationary. So GDX is up today, up about 1.5%, putting in a bullish engulfing that looks great to move on up. To move on up. Think of it as something like that. But we're going to try to move on up here. GDXJ putting in a bullish engulfing, looks good to go higher. We're sitting on top of patterns, so I think it looks great. SILJ also putting in a bullish candlestick today, bullish engulfing, where we could head higher. So that's across the board. We've broken out of the falling wedge, and let's see what kind of traction we can get here. Crude oil up 1.73%, looking pretty good. There we go. We've got the nice big wicks on the bottom, lots of buying pressure down there. That's why there's wicks. And let's see if we can move on up. And again, tomorrow we're probably going to release if there's a draw or an inventory build, and that could determine where we go with crude oil. TTF nat gas down a little bit. It's doing its return move. I like natural gas here, guys. I really do. It looks really good here. Really, really, really good. And on the website, we've been looking at the equities, and the equities look pretty good too. And you guys know which equities those are if you're part of the membership. Nat gas in America, 2.46% higher. I do think we're basing out. This is a really cheap, really good opportunity before more LNG terminal capacity comes online late 24, early 25, and onward. I should say late 24 and onward. And then we also have increased power burn and a lot of electricity demand. And keep in mind, everything is subject to weather. We've got hurricanes that could destroy things. We've got potential hailstorms that can destroy solar power generation. There's a lot of things that are weather related and dependent now. where we didn't have that before in the grid. Our boy XOP, yeah, you know me, ending up 0.7%. I think this looks fantastic, guys. We're right at the neckline. We're ready to go. If we get some strong moves in crude oil, I think the money's going to come rotating back into the equities. And I know that these are under-owned right now. Hardly anyone's in it. And I've got data on that if you guys want to see the next Twitter update. OIH getting a little bit bigger move here, 1.32%. This looks like it's trying to bottom and roll its way on up. I think it looks fantastic. And again, when I see this, a lot of the times you get a lead-in pattern and this is facing upward. It's pretty strong when this thing's going to break. So think of it as like the lead-in here, and then you kind of break out and rip. And that's kind of similar to what we're doing. Let me throw a couple of charts or lines in here real quick. We've got kind of a resistance area going through here. I think if we break that, we'll be set at about 443 bucks, which is about 30% above where we're at today. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust looking pretty strong today, up 2.8%. Are we not going to get that pullback? Potentially. Potentially this is it. Maybe we can get running here. We've got URA up 0.83. That's a bullish engulfing. Looks like we're going to try to go higher in URA. So that's looking a little bit better. And then URNM, another bullish engulfing. Let's see if we can get some traction here and throw down some big green candlesticks. That's what we're looking for. URNJ, we just consolidated right above support. So I'd like to see some bullish engulfing step in here, which is the initial stages of a potential reversal. So we're starting to see maybe the beginning of that potential reversal, but we got to see follow through in uranium. So TAN, we're up a little bit today, but again, we've broken everything to the downside. I'm not a huge believer here, guys. I think we're still going lower. Copper, again, we've got momentum going on up. Everything looks good. We have a down day today with a little wick at the bottom, but still looks okay. And again, we can consolidate. We can pull back as this goes on up. You know, we can do something like that, stair step and pattern up. It's still good. COPX down a little bit. It's starting to consolidate. It started with this bearish engulfing there. We're consolidating, but we're not getting much follow through of selling pressure. So I still think we're okay to eventually work our way on up. It looks good. Lithium up a little bit today. But again, there's nothing here that says that I need to be in this yet. It hasn't based out. We've had lots of selling pressure down here. And same with REMX. I think it needs some time. We've got lots of selling pressure coming down. And I just think it needs to base out before I get too bullish. It's doing it. It's basing it out, but we got to get some big fat green candlesticks to show up here. S&P 500 up 1.2% today. And again, I'm not convinced that this is just going to rip. I mean, I can be convinced if it does it, but we had some selling pressure. We had a turn. And now we got to see if there's any sort of follow through if this kind of does one of these guys. But again, we'll see. It'll trade. I don't have anything in this, so I'm just kind of watching it. NASDAQ's also up today. Again, usually you get the momentum is still this, and we have to see this change if it's going to change. So momentum still to the downside. We got to watch a couple more candlesticks here. KRE up a little bit. I think it likes the yields that dropped on the 10-year just a little bit, but we're back against resistance. Emerging markets also up with the weaker dollar. So that's looking a little bit better. And again, I think the dollar could go higher and rates could still go higher. XHB likes the weakening of rates. So does the overall stock market. But I don't know if rates are going to stay going down in the dollar. They could very well go up because we're sitting on top of all those support levels. MOV's also up right against resistance, and it's basing out right here. I think this is a good location to be looking. Iron ore is also in a good location here. And we also have this big 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're probably finishing 7 to rip. I think iron ore looks fantastic. Nickel also looks really good. Look at that, guys. We're going higher on nickel. Nickel and iron ore. And there's companies that produce a lot of nickel and iron ore that I very much like. Oh, just to let you guys know, I did purchase something today related to nickel and iron ore, and I put it on the website as the update, just to let you guys know who are members. Aluminum down 3%. This thing's been on a tear though, guys. It's been ripping. So we could get a little bit of a pullback here in aluminum. And the aluminum companies are up multi-hundreds of percents from the bottom that we're in. Baltic Dry Index, I think this still looks really good. And with iron ore strengthening and coal also breaking out, I do think this is going to work its way on up eventually. This is Newcastle Coal breaking out of its downtrend here. It's probably going to look for a return move. I wouldn't wait for the return move. I'd be looking now for the favorite coal companies. BTC down just a little bit. We'll see here, guys. We broke out of the pattern downward. They usually do a return move, and then it could potentially head lower. That would be, that would make sense if rates continue higher and commodities and oil continue up. Same with Ethereum. It's doing a similar setup. Big selling pressure move lower, small little guys coming on up, and we could see this head lower here at some point. But again, I could be early saying that. We've got SMCI up about 6% today, but this isn't a reversal candlestick, guys. Pressure's still down. And then NVIDIA, same thing. We were up 3.65% today. This could be a trap. We call it the bull trap. So you get all these big selling pressure candlestick, bearish engulfings. You get in an initial surge lower, which is this surge lower there. And then you get small up candlesticks that come up and then reverse, and it gets smoked again. Think of it as kind of a flag pattern that develops or a sharp flag pattern. But again, I'm not here to try to make those predictions. I think that technology is going to feel pressure if rates continue higher, and that's what's going to drive it. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you guys would like. We had an okay day today. Things are definitely recovering for the past couple of days. And oil's looking all right. We'll see what the inventory level comes out with on Wednesday, which is tomorrow. And overall, tech looks a little bit weak, a little bit downside pressure. We're seeing that in solar. We're seeing that in rare earth metals and some of these renewable things, lithium. But overall, copper and nickel and iron ore, they look good. They look good. And I think the oil, energy service, natural gas, they look like they're coming around too. So everything looks okay from my perspective. I think gold and silver still look good. And just got to be patient for all this to play out, guys. All right, guys, we'll catch you later. This is Finding Value.